In this scene, they're a little bit unclear. The cloud shadows kind of merge into the blue sky and make it a little bit harder to tell what's what. But I do know that the light's coming from the left. So I know I want a white shape here. So I shadow the right side. Light is hitting the left side, shadowing the right side. So this is just neutral tint. I'll get some of this on the scene. There's some more shadowed cloud areas up there. I know I've got a cloud coming in here that's white, so I'll kind of shadow underneath. And then on the right side of that, maybe we'll leave another one right in here, give it a little shadow like that. And then there are some various other areas out here that have some cloud shadows. So big brush, light gray, nice and easy, leaving some white space. Now we're going to take that cobalt blue and we're just going to work kind of from the top down to about, I don't know, 2-3 inches down with the cobalt, and then we'll start to switch over to the other blue. All right, now we want to make sure we save those white areas. So I'm just gonna paint around some of those like this. I'll kind of close in on this one too, nice and easy. Merging the blue sky with the shadow. Now here you can see there's a cloud shadow. So if I want to leave a highlight or sunlit part, I just leave it on the left side. I merge the back side with the blue. Merge the blue with that shadow, leaving some white there. This line's kind of leading down and off the paper, so I would interrupt that. There we go. Nice and simple. Now I might switch over to that cerulean cobalt turquoise blue at the bottom. It's going to be a little bit lighter too. And we'll just continue bringing this down, leaving those white spaces, coming down to the horizon like this. Pretty simple. Okay, so this is looking good. I've got the major goal accomplished. I saved white space, I got some shadows in there, and I've got a blue sky progression coming down. The only thing I don't like about this is all the hard edge texture up there. So I'm going to take my brush and rinse it out a little bit. Now I've got clean water. I'm dabbing it on the towel so that it's not dripping wet. And you can see after dabbing it, the brush holds its shape. This is how you know that it's relatively dry. And I can come through and just kind of pet over the edge of that shape, the edge of the color, and just soften those edges a little bit. Rinse the brush out again, dab it again, especially on the peripheral areas of the painting. It helps just to soften those edges a bit. Makes it a little bit more natural feeling. We don't want hard edges everywhere in the sky. Soften some of these. You could soften them all. Clouds look great as a soft texture. Completely up to you. They also do look good as a hard edge. So that'll work. And it's pretty easy to get obsessive about your skies and to want to get in there and make them perfect. And the lesson that I've learned in landscape painting is that a sky is often just a background for a scene. Unless it's like the showcase part of the painting, of course, then you want to be a little more attentive to it. But in general, the sky is just the background. So if you can get it in a couple minutes and then get out of there, you're going to have a nice fresh sky for the whole scene. All right, now I know there's some other areas in this painting that are cool colored. So my go-to base cool color is going to be that cobalt blue. And I'll just go through here and I'll start to bring in some of these cool areas as well. So it goes right through this little building on the left. And I can leave this as a warm shape there. And then I'll kind of keep coming this way. So I do know the top of this silo is blue, so, or cool, so I'll just get a little bit on there. I might leave a little white on that left side just to help it separate from the sky. There's cool coming down the left or the right side of that where it's in shadow, and then on the left side we do have a warm color, a raw sienna color, light orange, something like that will look really good. Okay, let me finish up with the cools before jumping into more warms. Most of this right hand side of that background barn is cool. Same with a lot of these trees back here. Same with the right side or shadow side of this building. And we got the shadows coming across. Those have some cool in them as well. So big brush stroke, get it in quick, large areas warm and cool. That we don't have to overthink it. We can keep it simple. All right, now I'm mixing up my warm color. So base warm color is going to be Windsor Orange. This is a great go-to warm color for any painting really. And I'm just going to block this in. Nice big areas of warm color. So just going to let these colors merge together. I want this to be a large value shape. You know, thinking back to that value study, I didn't separate out between different shades in here. It's all a large connected shape. And so I want to keep that flow in the final painting as well. So I'll go through and just charge in using this warm color and get this kind of keyed in with large areas of warm, large areas of cool. This building can have some warm on it like that. These colors can merge together. I don't care if they spread and overlap. In fact, for me, that's one of the best things about watercolor painting is when those colors merge on their own and they create beautiful versions that I could never think of or create on my own. Okay, now we're into this barn back here. And so there are a few areas I want to get specific warm colors on. So I might switch to a slightly smaller brush now. So going more towards that mid-value size 14 round. And I'll key in what looks like a light burnt sienna on this building. So got some burnt sienna out. Still a warm, but slightly more specific than just that orange that blankets the big warm area. So now we got some burnt sienna in that area. Looking at this building over here, this one feels a little bit grayer to me, so I might mix up some cool with the warm, dry it out, go in here and just soak up that orange and leave behind that more neutral color. I can see my silo, the blue crept into the sunlit part, so this is called the thirsty brush. I load up my brush with orange. I dab it off on the towel so it's nice and thirsty. It's dry. I can go in, I can soak up that cool color and it leaves behind the warm color. It's called the thirsty brush. That's something that I learned from my dad. It's students love that technique. It is pretty magical. It can change the temperature of a shape like that. You dry it out, load it up, dry it out, push hard when you hit the surface of the paper and it exchanges the colors. Okay, looking at the trees over here, it's pretty clear that there's some yellow, orange, yellow, green trees in here. So picking up a little green in my yellow and I'll just drop this in like that. Same thing, maybe get some orange or kind of more of a brownish color going. And this is slightly thicker paint consistency, so it's a little bit darker, but not changing values tremendously. It's still in that light value range. Now we talked about how there's going to be light value on this tree. So that's why I'm keying in and getting that color that I want in the end right now, because I'm not going to paint that area again if it's light value. I'm doing that color now. Okay, looking at this ground plane, I think this orange works pretty good in here. I don't mind that. There is a little bit of a sense of more red in it. So just grabbing more of that burnt sienna, shifting from orange slightly over towards red. Burnt sienna will do the job. And I'm just going to brush that in a little bit more specifically. We get to the foreground grasses. Those are a little bit more of a muddier green color. So taking some olive green and I'll just key that ground plane in with a little bit more of that color. And it can even be more neutral than that. So I'll just take some neutral tint like this and just gray it out slightly. There we go. This grass back here is more of a lime green. So I'll take some of that olive green with a little bit of yellow and just start to get that in a little bit more specifically. And you might think, why put that orange down if you're initially, if you're just going to put green in later? Well, getting it keyed in warm and cool is your first step. When you do that, you know the painting will work out in the end if you capture that large warm cool relationship. Once I have that established, I get a little bit more specific with the colors. Okay, now we'll get to a little bit more cooler blue color in the middle of this shadow like that. And then in the foreground, we already noted that it turns a little bit more green. So merging those colors a little bit, letting them blend together, but keeping that value shape intact. Now, as you hit the foreground area, you can see there's some grasses in front of that shadow. So I'll just do some vertical varied brush strokes. And then as we get further to the right, as these are approaching that transition from shadow to sunlight, you can see they pick up a little bit more of a warmer color again. So grabbing some orange, grabbing some red, and I'm just gonna blend that in with my rest of my shadow. And then finish it off over here. So these are a little bit flatter than that. So just kind of bring it across like this. There we go. You can get some green in there. Green's a relatively warm color to that blue. And we've got one nice little shadow here that exits off the picture. Just like that. And then we've got some varied shadows from little clumps of grass down in this area. We'll go a little warmer than that. Just little shadow shapes. Perfect. The only thing I want to do here is I want to make sure I'm connecting this shadow or this mid-value shape with a few little grasses or something in this area, just to make sure there's that visual, actual connection between those shapes. Well, for this, I've got thick paint, again, very, very little water, if any at all. And now I can just go back through and I can shore up any little details that I need to. There's some fence posts in this area that are illuminated light values. This is a great way to bring those back. If you couldn't paint around your tree trunks in the background, you can add some of that sunlight back on them right now. The calligraphic brush strokes are the great way to finish off the scene in the end. Put some illuminated tree branches right here. These lines, your brain really wants to focus on the details too, like it wants to have something to focus on, and just a few calligraphic lines here and there in a scene can really finish it off and help it feel complete. It maybe might be kind of fun to bring just a hint of sunlight coming down here. Again, you can see it's easy to get carried away with this, but let's imagine this building back here kind of got lost on me. So what if I were to take and just add a little bit of sunlight to that left-hand side? Bam, that brings it back into focus. Maybe it's got a little chimney on it catching sunlight. If you lost the edge on your barn, you could bring that back around. Gouache is kind of the fix-it and helps you paint fresher throughout the whole process rather than getting hung up on making things perfect. You can combine objects, have nice fluid painting, and then shore it up later with a little bit of gouache. And now I'm getting that feeling that maybe I'm taking it too far. So I'll add a few more and then be done.
The first question is, why do you wet the paper top and bottom? And what will wetting the paper make the paint create soft edges? Then how do you paint hard edges? So someone missed one of the steps, it looks like, and this is new for many. So please share that part of your
Yeah.
process.
The goal of wetting the paper isn't necessarily to create a wet into wet environment. I'm trying to saturate the paper and then remove the excess on both the front and the back. So there's moisture inside of the paper, but the surface is dry enough to where I can get a hard edge if I need it. And looking at the painting I did today, you could see those white shapes in the sky were hard edged. I actually had to go back in later and soften some of those. So the moisture is inside of the painting or inside of the paper. That allows it to be easier to connect the shapes that you're painting, but you're still able to get a hard edge if you want it. Now,
We
if you were
also had a
looking for,
we also had a comment from someone who wrote in. I just saw that passing by very quickly that they live in a very dry climate where it's really, really dry inside where they paint. Does this also help with that?
yeah, it does. I just got done teaching a workshop in Colorado where it's known for being very dry, and we use this approach, and it works quite well.
Ah, that's a relief. And then Lucy, or Lucia, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce your name, asked if you have a larger paper, do you still work on the whole painting at the same time, or do you work in sections? I love that question.
I generally don't paint much larger than a quarter sheet anymore. So this is kind of my comfort zone. I like it. I can paint it quickly, and it's something where I can paint more scenes rather than getting more involved on a larger painting. But I have painted half sheets this way, full sheets this way. My goal would always still be able to start and finish a painting in one session. That's just the way I like to paint with the impressionistic style. And there would be no reason you couldn't do the same approach on a larger sheet of paper.
Mm. And let me find some, let me see if I can find a new question here. Yeah, that was the question from Deb. The Yeah, let me see. There are so many thank you comments, so it's difficult to find the questions. Um, mm, mm. Fabulous, great tips. What did you use to treat your board? Is it completely waterproof? And would it work with like a plastic surface with your technique? Do we need to do exactly what you did, or can we use any water resistant surface for this
Yep.
technique to work?
Yep, you can use anything that's just not porous, it's waterproof. So I like these surfaces because I can get them, super smooth and they're easy for me to make. I just get them at like a Home Depot store or something like that. They can cut them for you, and then you just apply it's a satin finished polyurethane. It's water-based polyurethane. You can brush it or roll it on, and then I use a 200 grit sandpaper to sand it smooth. I like doing that. I know other people use just plexiglass. I have students that use Gator board. They all seem to work just fine. This is my personal preference. Use whatever works for you.
Perfect. I love that. Um, Thank you. You inspired me. Beautiful. It was amazing, etc. So more thank yous than questions. Yeah. Excellent instructions in such a calm voice. So enjoyable from Cynthia. I absolutely agree. Learned so much. Um, how do you let your painting dry? Still on the board? Does it buckle? So what's the drying when you're in the zone and want to paint as quickly as possible?
Yeah, I'm actually glancing over at my painting right now, and the upper right corner is starting to curl up a little bit. So what I'll do is after this is over, I'll just go over and I'll use that sprayer to kind of mist the front and back of that corner, and then it'll relax back down. And then I've got bulldog clips that I use, those metal clips. They look just like this, and I'll just clip down the four corners, and it dries pretty flat. It's not perfectly flat, but it's good enough to mat and frame. It's never been a problem with me. I know students too, um, or have often shared their approach of ironing a painting to get it to get back to perfectly flat. So there's options there if that's a big goal for you.
We do have a couple of questions of regarding materials. One of them was regarding your palette. What is that palette? It was beautiful how it was a color wheel, yeah, and how they actually were complementary colors in all directions. That was pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
do you know where we can find that one or what it's called?
Yeah, so I was telling you one of my influences is Stephen Quiller. So this is the Quiller palette. I'm pretty sure you can just get it from Blick or from Amazon. And then behind me in the studio, I've got the Quiller wheel. I don't get paid for recommending this. These are just the things that I use. I like them. The Quiller color wheel shows you the different pigments where they exist on the color wheel itself. So if you've got a color that you really like, you can look at that and figure out its true placement and its true complement. And that just makes it easier to mix neutrals and understand the primaries, secondaries, convenience colors, stuff like that.